Welcome to Live the Dream with yours truly, Marty Kaiser. Buckle up and let's get started. Good morning. This is Marty Kaiser here. Happy Friday with our latest episode of Real Estate Podcast. Hopefully everybody will get used to our twice a week format. As we mentioned, we just did our first Tuesday podcast a few days ago. And obviously this is the Friday podcast. So we'll be doing 2 podcasts each and every week. They'll be approximately 20 minutes in length, and we'll try to be a little bit more sharp with them and have a little bit of differentiation between what we talk about Tuesday and what we talk about Friday. So that's kind of give you a background. I wanted to chat about one thing in a little bit more detail today, and then I will mention a new property that we're placing on the market as well. What I wanted to chat about today is really relating to you as the potential consumers in real estate. What do you expect from your agent or broker? Is it based on your previous experiences, or is it based on your perception of what an agent should do for you? And the reason I ask that, when you read surveys from consumers, I would say a portion of them don't really know the depth of what a good realtor does for them. And that's probably due in part to the realtors not effectively communicating all the things that they do as part of their services. The other thing I think you find from surveys and chatting with consumers are that a lot of them, in my opinion, mistakenly feel that real estate agents are overpaid. And they also, in many cases, don't have what I call a favorable Q rating of their agent. And what do I mean by that? Well, a Q rating is how do they evaluate the profession, and if they were generalizing the individual agent. For example, when studies are done about professions, I think 3 of the lower rated professions from a perception standpoint are realtors, car salesmen, and lawyers. And they're all 3 very distinct professions. They have some similarities, but some huge differences. Okay, what's the perception of a car salesman? Well, they're out to make as much money as they can, and they're out to sell you a car. And I think those 2 things are probably true. Obviously, they're working for a car dealership, so they're paid to sell cars. So if they weren't selling cars, they would be terminated from their position. So there's certainly nothing wrong about that. When it comes to making money, we all make money, or we all work, I should say, to make money, to live a lifestyle that we're comfortable with, and obviously for those of us that have a family, to take care of our family, our children, etc. So again, that's nothing unusual. I think where they get a bad reputation, and I won't comment whether it's accurate or inaccurate, is that there's a lack of price integrity when you go to buy a car. In other words, if you go to the grocery store and you see steak is $8 a pound, and let's say it's a New York strip, I wish it was $8 a pound, but you can either buy it or not buy it. Also, if you feel that particular, like let's say you go to your local grocery store, which is Publix, and you feel that they're too expensive for a particular item, if you have the time and motivation, you can go somewhere that you think would sell meat at a lower price. For example, you could go to Costco or BJ's or Walmart, places that you're expecting them to have lower priced meat. Whether it is lower priced or not, only you can determine when you go and comparison shop. At the same time, when you're comparing price, you have to differentiate, is the quality the same? Is it rated as choice or prime or whatever the case may be? So these are the things that you can do personalized research, and you can make an educated decision. And so you couldn't say that Publix is a dishonest organization. They just have a certain price that they charge that they feel they need to make based on their overhead and profit expectations for their stockholders. When you're going into a car dealership, and I'll use myself as an example. I own a Subaru, actually a BRZ, which is their sports car. And I've owned one for a number of years now. This is actually not the first one that I've owned. And the reason that I own that is I feel in the scale of automobiles, it's good value, at least for me, what I'm looking for in a car. Styling, fun to drive, quality of the ride, etc. The other very important factor that I utilize in deciding about not only buying this car, but being kind of a loyal consumer for that brand, is that my car has very few mechanical issues. I've had it in the shop almost no time since I've owned it. And this is the third BRZ I've owned over a 10-year period. So that's a pretty good track record. So if I filled out a survey and you said, what do you think of Subaru's products? I would say excellent. And that's just because of my experience. At the same time, when I go in to negotiate, I feel that the price relative to other car lines is pretty reasonable. And I feel that the dealership doesn't put me as much through the ringer as some other places I've been to, meaning that there's less haggling. Basically, I go prepared, so I know what their profit margin is. I know what my trade is worth. And if I don't get the value that I think is equitable, then I won't buy it. But fortunately for me, when it comes to my dealings with Subaru, especially at the dealership that I go to, which I'll mention because to be accurate here, it's Sports Subaru in South Orlando. They've been, in my opinion, pretty reasonable with their negotiations. And so I leave there feeling positive, A, about the value that I got, but B, I wasn't dragged through the ringer and passed on to different salespeople, and everybody comes out with a canned presentation. Let me talk to my manager. They've kept that to a minimum. So all those things have been very positive. On the other hand, when I've bought cars previously and you talk to a lot of consumers, they feel there's a lack of price integrity in dealing with the dealerships, in the sense that one consumer might get a much better value than another consumer for different reasons, but they don't feel there's a lot of price integrity, that the job of the dealership is to make as much money off each consumer as they can. And so that's one of the reasons why they have a bad reputation in terms of these Q ratings that I mentioned. Secondarily, sometimes they make it very time-consuming and put you through the ringers when you're trying to negotiate with them. So even if you got a deal that you think's an okay deal, you feel exhausted after the experience, and you say buying a car was one of the most unfavorable experiences that you've had. That's why more people now, when they buy cars, are buying online. Not that online gets them a better deal or a worse deal, but they feel it's less stressful and less wasting their time. So these are things that I'm sure the car dealerships are aware of, and probably more car dealerships that want to have more satisfied consumers and more referrals take this into consideration in how they treat their consumers and how the consumers rate the buying experience. But for years, car dealerships have not had the greatest reputation in these ratings. The other thing is lawyers. Now, lawyers are a little bit different because obviously lawyers, they have to get advanced education. They get a 4-year college degree, and then they go to law school for 3 or 4 years. And then they have to sit for their bar exam. And if they pass their bar exam, they can become attorneys. And there's a lot of different disciplines in the attorney profession. Probably the ones that a lot of us are familiar with is we get overwhelmed with these commercials about if you get in a car accident, call me. There's 3 or 4 well-known lawyers that I'm sure you've seen on TV in the Orlando area that claim that they're number one in the country or they get their customers more money than anybody else, and they go to war for their customers, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the main type of advertisements that you see for lawyers. And up until a certain number of years ago, it was frowned upon to have lawyers advertising on TV, but now it's become very popular and commonplace. And those are the main type of lawyers that advertise. You also see some lawyers that specialize in divorces, medical malpractice, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different tentacles of the legal profession. Also, you get the smaller attorneys that have a smaller practice. Maybe they're sole practitioners or they have a couple other people in their office, and they're more generalists. They might do divorces, they might do probate cases, they might do real estate closings. So they're more of jack of all trades and less of a specialist. But in any event, they have very mixed reputations. The one thing that people feel about the legal profession is that they're expensive. Unless you have a great case, like if you get in a car accident and the attorney evaluates your case and feels that there's a good potential to win, then they might take your case on a non-contingency basis. Or on a contingency basis, I misstated that. And when they take these cases on contingency basis, they typically make about 30 to 35% of what the actual award is in the litigation. So they're willing to take that gamble because they're making a lot of money on their end fee. Other situations, like if you're getting divorced, if you're handling a probate, things of that nature, a real estate transaction, they charge usually they charge an upfront retainer, and then they charge you an hourly fee. And the hourly fees, depending on how famous the lawyer is, what profession they're in, how elaborate their office is their office headquartered in a more expensive part of Orlando, can affect what their fees are. And they may charge anywhere from $350 an hour to, $700-800 an hour. And so people think that's a lot of money in most cases. And the thing with lawyers is most of the time you give them a phone call, and let's say you're on the phone with them for 10 minutes, they're going to charge you for that. So if they're a $500 an hour a lawyer and you're on the phone for 10 minutes with them, they may charge you $75 to $100 for that phone call. So you kind of think you're in a taxi cab and the meter's always running. So there's that perception of lawyers that they're overpriced. And then they get paid whether, in your minds, they do a good job or an average job. If it's a divorce lawyer, they get paid whether you think you got a fair settlement with your ex or you kind of took it over the coals. So I don't think the perception of lawyers is going to change much just due to the way they charge fees, due to the way their services are advertised, et cetera. The real estate profession is unique from a couple of standpoints, and obviously I'm biased because I'm a real estate broker. But number one, there's too many realtors in the profession, and I think you're seeing a weeding out of that with the changes that we've experienced the last 8 months. But in the Central Florida area, there's over 10 to 12,000 licensed agents just in Central Florida. And there's certainly not enough business for that many agents. When you read statistics, probably 60 to 75% of real estate agents don't do one transaction in the course of a calendar year. So now a lot of those are part-time. A lot of those just never got a foothold in the industry where they made a living with it. There's different reasons for it. The point of those statistics are it's not an easy profession to be successful in. Now, in order to be successful, you obviously have to get customers. Well, how do you get customers? Well, there's a variety of ways. When you're trained, obviously people tell you friends and family, networking, people that live in your neighborhood, and then there's more elaborate things from there, kind of like how you branch out with tentacles. What kind of marketing are you doing? The big term in real estate is lead generation. Now, obviously, you have a lot of technology. You have AI. AI is a great and a bad thing. I'll say it's a great thing because it can make life easier and it can do a lot of things in a much quicker fashion than the agent. On the flip side, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is a lot of my contemporaries, their writing and communication skills are horrible. I look at like, did they go to school? Did they take English classes? I mean, their writing skills are just abhorrent. And they come across sometimes very unprofessional. But AI can make a dumb person look smart. Somebody that can't really write, you just go on AI, you go on Chat GPT, you give them a few buzzwords about what you're wanting to accomplish, and then they come out with how you should communicate to people. There's nothing illegal about that, but obviously it can camouflage a person's lack of knowledge or intelligence. So I have a problem with that because I take pride in doing my own work. I do use ChatGPT a little bit, but probably less than a lot of people would say I should use it, just because I like doing my own work. If you read a letter from me, it's from me. It's not from ChatGPT. If you see advertising from me, at least a large portion of it's from me. Maybe I'll fine-tune it with ChatGPT, but most of it's in my words. Obviously, if I talk on the telephone, it's from me. If I text, it's from me. So, I have a problem with that. But the point of this illustration, there's a lot to being a realtor. So once you get some customers through your source of networking, lead generation, and whatnot, then you actually have to get a transaction out of it. And there's a lot of components in the transaction. And I won't bore you with everything that realtors do. I'll just tell you I do a lot for people. And at the end of the day, I only get paid if the transaction closes. So if I do all this work and the deal doesn't close for whatever reason, I've put all this time in for zero. As they say, nada. So how many jobs do you people have that are listening to me that you put in X amount of hours a week and make zero amount of money? You always have that potential in real estate. So I think people should be more appreciative of realtors' efforts, good realtors, and that their time is valuable because they're not charging for time. We're not like lawyers. I don't get on the phone with somebody, have a half-hour conversation with them, and then send them a bill for $150. That would be nice if I could do that, but I don't do that. And I don't think the consumers would want to pay me for that because they're not used to that. So I have to kind of evaluate each situation. I have to put a value on my time, and then I have to make sure that the customer that I'm working with, I think, is serious about considering doing a real estate transaction in the future, whether it's with me or someone else, but they're just not out there, wasting time, but they're actually considering doing real estate. And real estate can be a high-pressure occupation. You see the worst of people when money's involved. And especially real estate being, for a lot of people, the biggest ticket item they're going to enter into from an investment standpoint. The average house now in Orange County is over $400,000. So that's a big chunk of money for the average person to spend. So they're going to take it very seriously. And it's really going to be, for a lot of people, the most important decision they make, other than maybe taking care of their health or picking out a spouse. So they should put the same amount of emphasis and thought into not only who they hire to be their real estate agent or broker, but more importantly, what attributes are important. So some attributes that I always tell people when they say, well, why should I hire you, Marty, over Joe Smith? Well, number one, I've got a track record of being successful. Any information I give my customer is based on factual data that I can support. I don't make a lot of idle, what we call sales puffing. You've heard that term frequently for people that are in the marketing and sales business. I don't embellish. If I tell people I've sold 1,000 properties, then I've sold 1,000 properties. I put forward my merits, qualifications, experience, and results. Secondly, I don't ever tell somebody something that's not true. If somebody asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I will say, that's a great question. Quite honestly, you're the first person that's asked me that, so let me find the answer out and I'll get back with you. That doesn't happen very much to me in real estate because I've been doing this for a while and I can answer most inquiries. But occasionally somebody will give me a question that's out of left field that I don't have an immediate answer for. And rather than bluff my way through it, I will tell them I'll be back to them and I'll try to get back with them as soon as I can. I usually know where to find answers if I don't know them for some reason. Thirdly, what I pride myself on is ongoing and concise communication. You know, one of the things that I learned when I got into the business, and one of the big criticisms that customers have of real estate agents, is that they don't communicate with them on a regular basis, or they communicate with them in such a way that it's hard to understand. I try to reach out to my people in advance of them reaching out to me, because I don't want them to think, well, what's going on? I haven't heard from Marty for a few days. I want to be the one that reaches out to them and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I just wanted to touch base with you. Since we spoke earlier in the week, nothing dramatic's changing, but I wanted to let you know I'm doing the things that I promised that I would do. And if I have a reason why things have been a little quieter, I will tell them that. But I try to reach out to them before they say, well, I haven't heard from Marty for a week and a half. What's he doing? He promised me all these things and I never hear from him. I don't ever want a customer to say that about me. And then, of course, when you get into negotiations on a transaction, when you go through the inspections with your customer, when you physically sit at closing with your customer, all those things take patience, keeping your customer calm, just trying to make the transaction as smooth as possible for them. And so I do my utmost to do that. I want it to not only be a successful transaction, but I want it to be hopefully a positive experience for the customer. And they say, Marty made it pretty seamless for me. He kind of went through with me before we got started the things that we're going to experience, and he was pretty accurate on that. So I take great pride in that. I take a complaint from a customer very seriously, and I really have to evaluate, is that a justified complaint? And obviously, if the customer brings it up, they feel it's justified. And what could I have done better? So I take pride in hopefully not having too many complaints. And fortunately, I don't. But I take those things very seriously. And probably one of the things that I've been guilty of over the years is maybe I haven't sufficiently told people all the things that I do for them, all the time that I spend helping them. I don't want to, pat myself on the back, but I think it's also important that when people are evaluating not only who they're going to hire, but what the fee is that a real estate agent charges, that they feel it's a justifiable price. I know a lot of people feel that realtors are overpaid, and they feel that they have a lack of credibility in some cases. The credibility, I definitely make sure that they don't feel that about me. And obviously, it's my job to communicate all the things that I do for them and why, in my opinion, they're getting very good value for my services. So that's a little bit about how I view the profession, how I try to communicate this to my potential or current customers. Hopefully they feel similarly to what I've explained today. But I think communications are at the forefront of any type of interpersonal business, real estate being at the forefront of that. So I hope this has enlightened some people. I hope the people that have worked with me feel that I'm worth what my fees are. And obviously, if you have questions about this podcast or you have any general real estate questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at my cell phone number, 407-595-9700, or my email address, marty@floridasells.com. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe. Spend time with your family. And we'll talk to everybody this coming Tuesday. Take care. Marty Kaiser out.